This is The Civil Fleet, the podcast focused on the activist-led refugee rescue and support missions across Fortress Europe, with me, Ben Coles. In this episode, we are going to speak with Katja and Matthias, the co-founders of the refugee rescue group CompassCollective. They're going to tell us how they operate their rescue ship, the Trotamar III, to document human rights violations and save lives in the central Mediterranean. They also tell us about the recent rescue of an 11-year-old girl they found by chance floating alone in the sea for 2 or 3 days. So, before we get into today's podcast, I'd like to remind you that the Civil Fleet is not just a podcast, it's also a news blog with investigative stories, news reports, interviews, and all kinds of stuff. Go to civilfleet.com to find out more about that. Also, if you like what the Civil Fleet is doing and you would like to help us or support us to carry on platforming the amazing people that we have done, the first thing you can do is give us a like, a share, a subscribe, and all that stuff YouTubers say. You can share the podcast with people, donate the podcast as a gift to your friends somehow. Anyway, and you can support us by giving us a small donation, a micro donation, which helps us to cover the costs of platforming these awesome people we have on the podcast. To do that, you can go to ko-fi.com/civilfleet. That's ko-fi.com/civilfleet. Our costs are super low to run this podcast, but any help is greatly appreciated. Okay, that's enough of me. Let's get on with the show. So Katja and Matthias, thank you very, very much for coming on the Civil Fleet podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
So today we are going to talk about the Compass Collective, which you two are involved with. I'm not sure if you're the founders or the members, but we'll talk about that. We will talk about a rescue that you were recently involved with of an 11-year-old girl, which I think has got lots of media attention. But can you tell us about your background? I like to ask people that come on the podcast to tell us about their background. I hope it inspires people listening to the podcast to get involved. I don't know, maybe Matthias or Katja, if you could go first and tell us about your background.
So I'm a midwife and a social worker, but this are my professions. But also I'm a nonviolent activist since I would say 40 years. So I have organized many big direct action and civil disobedience in Germany against genetic manipulated corn from Monsanto, or against military or other human rights offenses, and but the main focus was on anti-nuclear power, because we live in a special region. Perhaps I think we will tell a little bit about that later. I'm the co-founder of CompassCollective, and my role is mainly I'm responsible for the crewing, for putting together a crew that works together well and that is diverse. That's what I try to do. And also, I'm responsible for all the things that other people in our collective do not do. So I pick up on that. And I'm also the media spokesperson and many different roles. But these are the most important that come to my mind at the moment.
Well, that's a really interesting background. Maybe some other time I'd love to know more about your direct action stuff that you did in the past. That would be really interesting. How about you, Matthias? Do you have a similar background?
I have also a background, yeah. In my first life, I was a nurse and a teacher for nurses. And in my last life, before sea rescue, I was a bus driver. And in between, I did a lot of things. And my political background is also very long. So I started with politic activities, but most in parliamentarism way, since I'm 14. So it's also more than 40 years ago, or a long time. But I started also non-violent Action 2008, and this was also the fight against this nuclear storage. But I also did non-violent actions against militarism, nuclear weapons, right-wing people, and whatever. So 2008, my political activities changed away from parliamentarism to activism. Yeah.
On the street.
On the street, yeah. And Katja and me, we are both the founders of CompassCollective, and we also created before a small NGO. So, this NGO to go on the Balkan route. So before CompassCollective, we did also stuff in this direction. That's me. And did I forget something? No, I don't think so. And excellent. I'm 57 years old.
Perfect. Great. Well, thanks very much. I love hearing backgrounds like that. It's really great to get. I've got a lot of people on this podcast, but I like it when I have activists, people that have done activism work on the podcast, because I hope it inspires people listening to do stuff, to get involved. You don't need to have a master's degree or something, to do this kind of thing, right? You just do it. Great. That's wonderful. Thanks very much. And so, let's talk about the Compass Collective then. I've heard a lot about you guys. I've never spoken to anyone from Compass Collective. But can you tell us, how did it get started? I saw you got some kind of link with a fight, and you mentioned a fight against nuclear waste. Can you give us a background into the organization?
I mean, the prehistory was sort of being active on the Balkan for several years. So we went there almost each year since 2016 for 5 weeks, and we supported people on the move in Greece on the border to Macedonia, and in Serbia on the border to Hungary, and also Bosnian Croatian border, and documented pushbacks and things like that. So we were involved in supporting people, and then the situation in the Mediterranean became worse and worse. And also Matthias was active in sea rescue with some other NGOs, bigger NGOs. And then we had access to a small sailing vessel. And then we said, oh, why not combine all these things? And we had some time. And so we said, oh, we combine that. And in 2 years ago, we founded the Compass Collective in December 22. And now we are here in December 24, and we have had 13 deployments since then. 12 times we were on the water because one deployment couldn't take place because of engine problems. So we were very, very active in that time. And yes, we are based in Sicily, in Licata, and we go out with changing groups, with volunteers or activists. It's sometimes a little bit different. Some people are really activists. They bring with them a political background of political thinking, attitude, action. And some are sort of students and they want to experience something new, but they haven't thought about Frontex or things like that. So it's a mixed crew, but we call them activists. And they come for 3 weeks, and we go out, and we can tell a little bit perhaps later. And that's what we did 9 times, and it just ended today, the 9th deployment.
This year.
Oh, so you
this year, yeah.
Yeah.
And you were out at sea today?
No, not today, but last week. Yeah. But I want to add 2 things. One point is political activism. We have to have fun during our political activism. So it's also the combination sailing on the sea and rescue. So for me, for example, personally, it's very important to have fun, and I like sailing, so it's a good combination. Otherwise, I'm not able to smile and get a good feeling to the other people, and the things I do will not be nice, they will only work, blah, 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 blah. So this is one point. And the second point is okay that I added?
Yeah.
And the second point, we are a very fast NGO because we decided to be operational in December 2022, and 9 months later we had our first deployment, and other NGOs need several years to prepare themselves. Then they have all the papers and they are very well structured, and we were not so structured. We had the idea and we want to do something now, not in 2 years. No? So we have this activism view to do something and not to create a structure and then legal reasons, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, found money, collect money before. No, we collect money later.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Yeah, so I think you operate in like a monitoring role. Is that right? Like you go out, you're not necessarily going out deliberately to rescue people. You're going out to assist other ships or monitor the situation. Is that right? Am I describing you accurately?
The task that we set ourselves is monitoring, but of course, if people are close to drowning, we rescue them on our boat. But Matthias will later describe some rescue situations or assistance situations, and then it becomes, I think, more clear. I think one of the main things is we are not only there out of humanitarian reasons of rescuing people, but we are almost mainly there because we think that we have sort of destroyed the fortress Europe. We have to undermine that. We have to support people to get through the walls and to do what they like, to have their freedom of movement. So there are these two aspects. Yeah. And I wanted to say something about our background in the resistance against nuclear waste, because that, I think it accompanies us the whole time, because we learned for many decades in Gorleben, that's a site where they wanted to have a big nuclear center with a nuclear power plant, with a intermediate waste deposit site and final deposit site, and also reprocessing plant, so everything for nuclear technology. And we were there in the resistance and organized mass blockades. And what we learned there, for example, what Matthias said, that we just get started. Even if we don't have any money, we lend some money from private friends. And if the thing is good, and if we organize something, then most of the time it is good, because we are there with our heart and our knowledge. Then money will come back to us, and we will be able to fund the whole thing. So that's one of the we have many experiences, but that's one of the experiences. And the other one, that we are not afraid of authorities. So if police officers tell us not to go on, we will go on without hurting them. And this is also an attitude concerning sea rescue, that we are not afraid. We are not afraid that Matthias will be imprisoned because perhaps we have rescued people for a second boat, which is not allowed if we have not the order from Rome. Or we are not afraid that our boat might be changed in Lampedusa for 2 weeks. It will be like that, and if we are not happy with that, we will go to court, and then we can fight there for our rights and our freedom.
But we know it's a very European view. I think I would have another talk about it when I would be active in Syria or in Turkey or in Bangladesh or somewhere else. I know we have a comfort zone in Europe that we can trust a little bit. The non-violence police. So we know it is violent, but not like torture, I hope. Yeah.
And we have the German passport.
Yeah.
That...
So
It
we know.
gives all the
Yeah.
privileges.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, I know. I think it's great what you're doing and what you set up is really good. And I like what you said about direct action. I think that's it's a good way to do politics. It's a good way to do things, I think. So yeah, that's really interesting. And I think you just made mention there to the Piantedosi Decree. I'm terrible at other languages, so I think it's Piantedosi Decree.
Yeah,
Is it correct?
yeah, something like this. Yeah,
Yeah, and
I'm
that
also not good in it.
and that basically that is a law that the Italian government recently introduced that makes ships have to you do one rescue and you have to go straight to port, right? Um,
Yeah.
that's correct, I think.
And they are
I guess-
successful. They're successful with this law because now 2 big boats stop their work. Yeah, about the costs. So after 1 year, they have the result they wanted to have.
It's really terrible, isn't it? And that means this just going to mean that more people are going to drown, right?
Yeah, for
Of
sure.
course, if there are less NGO boats in the Mediterranean, there will be more drownings. Yeah.
And it was MSF last week. We're recording on December the 18th. Last week, MSF, and what's the other ship? Is it Sea-Watch that stopped, or
CI.
CI? Yes.
Yeah.
No, that's really tragic. Hopefully they get back to sea soon. I don't know what
Yeah.
they're going to do, but hopefully they get back soon.
It's only one boat of
Yeah,
CI. It's
yeah.
not the whole CI.
Yeah, not the whole CI. Yeah.
So can you tell us about your ship and kind of give us an example of how it operates? I think it's called the Trotamar III.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's the old name. We bought this boat with this name, so we have this old name, and it's a very small pleasure craft. So it's a sailing vessel with 3 meters, so 13 meters. It's a very small one. Officially, there are sleeping places for 10 people, but we reduced it for 7. But we have every time a crew of 6 persons. Yeah, it's a nice old sailing vessel. It's from 82. We have a saloon and the kitchen is inside the saloon, and there 2 or 3 crew members can sleep. We have a small hallway to the back. There's also a bed, and in the aft cabin there are also 3 places to sleep. We have 2 toilets. We have no shower, so we have shower, but we are not able to use them because we need the water for other things. And in the front cabin there are life vests. So if you see the boat from outside, you think it's a sailing vessel and nothing more. And inside, it's also a sailing vessel. Yeah. So we have a very reduced stuff. Yeah. So we are limited in all we can do. So, for example, we have no hospital, and we also say we are a sailing vessel. We are not able to have things like in a hospital, so we don't have stuff like this, and we don't we are very reduced and limited in our possibilities, but we are able to do something, and later I can describe what we can do and how we did it. We have nice 3 sails. Most time we use only 2 of them. We have an engine. We use them a lot because the wind sometimes or most times doesn't come from the right direction, so we have to use the engine if we want to sail to a case with a boat in distress. Yeah.
And we have rescue equipment on board.
Yeah, and for sure we have some rescue equipment on board. We have a dinghy. We have a small dinghy of 3 meters. This is very important for our operations because this is a communication and the transfer tool for life vests, or transfer tool also for people, because we don't want to go in direct contact with the boats in distress. And we have more than 200 life vests on board, and a megaphone and live rafts for 70 people. So in a very bad situation, we could support or rescue with this life raft, which is not nice to use them for about 130 people, I would say, because we had several times more than 60 people on board.
So that must be quite intense if you have that many people
Yeah,
on the ship.
and also for the crew, it's very intensive because it's a small vessel and you have, there's no privacy. So there's no door you can close and can say, so I want to be alone for 2 hours. No, it's not possible. You have every time contact with other crew members. It's small. It's small.
And then so let's talk about how you kind of go out to then like, 'cause I guess I imagine you set sail and you go to the, I don't know, do you go to the central Mediterranean, like the main area where people have left Libya? Is that where you kind of operate from? Do you work with like alarm phone or something? Like how does it work? Can you just run us through how it works? How you either monitor or how you rescue?
Our first point is Lampedusa. So we sail from Licata to Lampedusa, and from there we start to be operational. And there are, for us, 2 ways to search for people. One way is directly south from Lampedusa, because there's one route from Libya. There's a village, there's a town, a city at the Libyan coast where they can sail direct north to Lampedusa. So we can sail them in their direction. And the second possibility is, and this depends a little bit about the information we get from other NGOs, the other possibility is to sail in the direction of of the direction of Tunisia. It's about, it's a southwest course. And at one point we change this course again to south, and then we can also find boats coming from Libya, which make a banana turn, I would say. So they start in, like this. Yeah, they start in Libya and then they go a little bit in the direction of Tunisia and then back eastern to Lampedusa. And these are the 2 possibilities. And there are 2 NGOs or 3 NGOs, 2 with planes and 1 with phones, alarm phone and airborne and pilote volontaire. We recognize their information, and then we can decide, is there more traffic in this area or more traffic in that area.
I'm just going to say for the listeners, the last episode I did of the podcast was with Sea-Watch. We talked about their airborne operations. Seabird, I think, is their plane. I keep getting it wrong, but anyway, they have a plane, and then also Alarm Phone is a rescue organization where they operate a hotline for people in distress, and I have 2 or 3 episodes with their activists. They're really great. I really like Alarm Phone. And that's kind of how you find people, like how you find boats in distress or people in distress.
But also, I mean, we get the information, as Matthias said, from the planes or from alarm phone. But also, if there's much traffic, then we just find the boats by ourselves. They just cross our way, or we cross their way, because most of the time the engine is not working any longer. So that
also happens.
Yeah, that also happens.
How often do you go out and there's nothing there? Like, I imagine that the departures from Libya go up and down, right? I guess in the summer there's lots of people leaving, and then maybe in the winter there's less. I'm not really sure.
No, it's not like this. It's possible that you could say last year, if there are sun and no waves, then the boats will start. But this year we had a deployment without waves and nice weather, and we were there for 2 days and nothing happens. And then we found boats. And now we had only 3 days out in the sea, and we were not able to leave far away from Lampedusa because the boats came in our direction, or we found them by ourselves.
And that happened after a big storm for several days.
Yeah.
And that was very surprising that the boats were there. So some of them must have left during the storm.
Yeah. So you
That's
cannot
terrifying.
say, you cannot say the weather's good, the boat will start. So they start every time or no time. So yeah.
Yeah, like one of the things I really hate when you hear people say that the rescuers are like being a push factor, a pull factor, and I always think it's nonsense. Like it's the weather, it's the waves. There's lots of different reasons for people leaving Libya. It's not because the rescue ships are there, right?
Yeah, the most boats arrive by themselves in Lampedusa and in Spain and in Greece. No? So most boats arrive by themselves. Some of them are rescued by official rescue boats, and some of them are rescued by NGOs, and some of them nobody find. Yeah. Or Libyan Coast Guard pull them back, or Tunisians too.
And sometimes they get rescued by like merchant ships or something, right? Like, well, they're supposed to, but they don't always do it.
Yeah. Sometimes it happens. Yeah.
And so, shall we talk about? You were just recently, I think it was last week or the week before. Recently, you got a lot of media attention for rescuing an 11-year-old girl. So, can you tell us about this mission?
Yeah, it was.
First of all, we have to say something about the wording, because we don't talk about missions. We think that the word comes from either militarized language or from a Christian background. So we try to avoid that word. You can use it, of course, but we don't use it. We say deployment, just to, yeah.
That's a good point, actually. I do use that word a lot. I use that word all the time, actually, and that's an interesting point. I've not thought about it like that before.
So in the first search and rescue scene, there are some NGOs which use mission, some use the word rotation, and we use the word deployment. Yeah. So there are also NGOs which use the word mission. Yeah, but last week during our deployment, it was in the night about the rescue with a 11-year-old girl. It was in the night, and 4 of us were sleeping, and only 2 people had watch. And then they saw a light somewhere at the horizon, and they wanted to discuss and to observe it a little bit, and for this they reduced speed. And with this reducing of the speed, they also reduced the noise of the engine. And after some seconds, they heard a person shouting on the other side of the boat. And then one crew member took the spotlight and pointed into the water, and then he saw this girl swimming 4 or 5 meters away from the boat.
Wow.
And yeah, it was luck. It was only luck. If they would have sailed faster and louder, then they had passed the child, and then so it was luck.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Did she have a light? Like you said, there was a light or something. Did she have a torch with her or something?
No, it was a fishing light or something like that.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
I mean, when we see lights on the horizon, we have to find out if it's a boat in distress that needs our help, that is sort of signaling, or fisher boat or whatsoever. And that's why the crew stopped or reduced the engine, and the light was very far away, and she didn't have any light.
Mm-hmm.
It was just dark, huh?
Yeah, it was dark. Yeah.
It was
that's just
3:20 in the morning.
Yeah.
Wow, that's just like total luck, isn't that? Unbelievable.
And then someone said, okay, but there was a moon, and the moonlight, and the day later we saw the moonlight, and it was a very bright night, but in this night there should have been clouds because it was dark. It was really dark. We had to point with a spotlight. It was luck. And then we could rescue her and could take her on board, and
Were you two sleeping at that point, or were you on the boat at that point?
You were sleeping.
Yeah, I was sleeping, and then it was also very crazy. One crew member shouted into the saloon. I'm sleeping in the saloon. We have a case in distress. And then the second sentence was, "There's a person in the water." And I thought, okay, they saw a big boat, or they see a big boat, and there's one person falling into the water, and this person will swim back to the boat in distress. This is a normal scenario. This happens sometimes. And I thought, okay, take your private protection stuff and remember to wear it, because you tell the crew every time they have to wear it before they get on deck. And then I stepped into the cockpit and looked in the water and saw only one person. And I thought, it's unbelievable, because I thought there will be a boat with 50 people or something like this, and it was only one, somewhere in the sea. Yeah. And we are close to it, or to her. Yeah.
Can you tell us how was she like when she came on board? What happened? How did she seem? And I didn't. Sorry, I forgot to make a note of where she was from. Was she? I don't remember which country she came from, but yeah.
She told the crew that she was from Sierra Leone, and I mean, what we didn't say, she had a life vest on, but a very simple one. And she had two sort of tires, the air-filled tubes that are inside tires, and she had two of them around her waist. And how did she come on board, Matthias?
Yeah, we were able to transfer her on the port side of our boat, and there's the ladder. And with our assistance, or with the assistance of two crew members, she was able to climb on the boat. And she was also able, with assistance, to walk into the cockpit and later under deck. And she spoke a very good English, so the conversation was very easy. Yeah, and then our medic, and so a male medic and a female crew member assist her the whole time. So the medic has had the medical overview, and the female crew member was able to give a little bit protection from woman to woman. So that, yeah.
And of course, she was hypothermic, whatever. The temperature was low, so it was 35 degrees. But she was fine with this temperature. I mean, she was exhausted, she was tired, she was cold, but the crew slowly warmed her up. And then she was very tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she fell asleep also.
Yeah.
And she was at sea for like 3 days or something, was she?
2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days.
Not 4 days.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was on the iron. She told us she was on an iron boat with 45 people, and we think 44 of them died, but yeah. So until now we didn't hear that Coast Guard found someone alive. So and she told us this iron boat sunk, and I thought one time such an iron boat sinking, it's a very bad picture, because they are not really boats. It's only metal which is welded together. And if there's one wave coming in, then this boat is like a stone and goes to the ground directly, and from 1 second to the other, no time. And yeah, it's very, very hard. I saw it one time, and so I don't, yeah.
What she told us was that at first, for the first day when she was in water, there were 2 other people somehow close to her, and she had some kind of contact. And after the first day, they disappeared, and then she was in the water for another 2 days.
Yeah.
That's horrific, isn't it? Like, I can't imagine being in that situation. And so yeah, where did she leave? Did she leave from Libya or Tunisia or somewhere else?
Oh no, she said they left in Sfax, it's Tunisia, And these iron boats every time come from Tunisia. So it's a special Tunisian boat. Blah.
Because the Tunisians forbid the other boats and made it a criminal act, and then the people in Tunisia started to build their boats on their own without having knowledge for shipbuilding.
Oh, they have knowledge, but they don't make them very proper. So it's only for one tour, and
Yeah, I mean that's like a knock-on effect, right? Like the government can ban rubber boats, but you just make it more dangerous because people have to leave. Oh, it's just crazy. And then, so then, according to the Piantedosi Decree, you had to go straight back. Is that what you did, or like you said, you're not you? I don't know. Maybe we don't want to go too much into that. But what did you do? Like, did you head straight back after?
yeah, first we looked a little bit around if we could find other people, but then she said several times she's inside the water since several days, and it was dark in the night, and we informed the authorities, and and at one point I decided to sail back to Lampedusa because the Coast Guard said we have to sail back because they would not send a vessel. First, I asked for a vessel to take the people on their boat.
The person, the girl.
The girl, yeah. First, I asked for a boat to take her on board, like a medical evacuation. But they told us we have to sail to Lampedusa, and it was only 12 sea miles, no? So it was not so far away. It's about 2 hours for our boat about 2 hours. And so at one point we started to sail back. We had then a small communication with Radio Lampedusa, with Lampedusa Radio. This is the official radio station on the island. If we shall search or if we bring her back directly, and then we continued our trip to Lampedusa. Yeah, and to find something in the dark, it's for everyone, every boat, it's nearly impossible to find something. Also, the officials search during daylight and not during the dark.
Yeah, I can't believe how well, I was going to say lucky, but it's not lucky, is it? But to find someone in the dark like that is unbelievable. Really unbelievable. Like you could have sailed straight past her, like you said. It's really. I don't know the word for it. I can't describe it. I know, and so you took her to Lampedusa, and as far as you know, she's there, and hopefully, she's being looked after.
We handed her over to the ambulance, and then for me, my job was done. And now you? And
normally, or also in this case, we don't follow the fate of the people because we are doing sea rescue, and we are not so many people in our group organizing this whole project. We don't have any capacities, and there are land-based NGOs that can follow and support relatives and people in the camps. So, for example, Maldusa is working there. And so everything about her situation we only know from the media. And it seems that she's already in Sicily and in a foster family. That's my information at the moment.
Yeah. It's good to hear that she's with a foster family. Hopefully, that's good. And Maldusa, you mentioned Maldusa. I've had Maldusa been on the podcast too, so that's good.
Strange thing is that this of course the media focused on the situation of this girl. She's young, she's female, she's black, so typical of weak people. And in our eyes, she's very strong because she survived that. She did not die because of being too cool, so her body worked perfectly with the life vests, and the two rubber tubes around her waist must have kept her warm, and she must have had a very strong spirit, even to have the power then to shout out to the sailing vessel, not being afraid there's a boat coming. I tried to leave the scene. So we do not see her as a weak person or small person. Perhaps she's even with her 11 years a young woman and not a small little girl that's being rescued. And what was very surprising is that we had many offers of people they wanted to adopt her or take her in their family. And it was so obvious that only because of all these outside signs of this person they offered this. And sometimes it made us a little bit, or at least me, a little bit angry that there's so many people dying in the Mediterranean. And if we had rescued a 54-year-old man and he would have been in the water only for one day, nobody would have done whatever, anything. And now only because of this special situation, the people offer help, and that is not nice. But on the other hand, that's always, if you have one fate of one person in the focus, it opens the heart for the people. So we hope very much that people who are being touched by her fate at the moment and who connected themselves emotionally with her, that they also are more open, especially now in the Christmas time, more open to the whole situation in the Mediterranean, and that it's just a human crisis, and that we need open borders, all these other aspects.
Absolutely, yeah, I agree. And like I guess it might be the same in Germany, but in the UK there's always a focus, particularly from right-wing media, about the people arriving, the people on the move being military-aged men. They often talked about them as if they're soldiers or invaders. Is it similar rhetoric in Germany or in Italy where you're based at the moment?
Yeah, in Germany it's like the young
The
man. Yeah, young man.
Not middle-aged. It's more the 16 to 25 year.
No, 18 too.
Yeah, okay, 18 to 25-year-old young men. These are the enemies.
Yeah.
They don't have to come to Germany. They can stay in their country.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. It does. This case gets more attention and probably more sympathy because it was a girl and a child. But then that sympathy disappears when it's other people. I'm not trying to say that men are like the victims here, but everyone in this situation is being screwed over, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that it's an incredible story. And it sounds like you have many of them. So, what other can you tell? Is there anything else you want to say about that operation, that deployment, or shall we talk about some other ones you've been on?
I can describe you one or two rescues or one or two situations. One of them, it was in very bad weather. The weather was so bad that we were not able to launch our dinghy. High waves. It was also an iron boat, not moving at the end, and a very big commercial vessel was close to it. And this commercial vessel was in communication with Malta because it was in the Maltese search and rescue region. And Malta told the captain he has to follow the boat during it was sailing. And has to observe the situation only. And then we arrived and we asked the captain if he could be able to give us shelter, that we could launch our dinghy. And then he said, I have to ask Malta. And then he communicated with RCC Malta, with the Rescue Coordination Center on Malta. And they said, no, he only has to observe. And then we were not able to launch our dinghy. And we were able to transfer life vests by wind with big packs and wind, and we throw it into the water.
Floating on the water.
Yeah, floating on the water, and then it arrives at one point at the boat. And we called, it was in the Maltese zone, we called also Rome, so the Maritime Rescue and Coordination Center from Italy. And I think this was a very important thing because until this moment, only the Maltese authorities knew this. And in my eyes, and I would repeat it in front of every court, in my eyes, the Maltese hoped that this boat would arrive in the Italian search and rescue zone region, and then the Italians would be responsible. And if not, then not. Then there is a Greece captain which is traumatized because he observed drowning people. And it's a captain. He can do his work and can sail away. It's only a captain. And for me, I'm very sure we communicate with the Italians. We describe them the story. And then at one point, like in an American movie, it was dark, it was getting dark. And then a Charlie Papa, the Italian Coast Guard boat came. And the captain there also asked the commercial captain to give shelter, and then he started the maneuver. But during this maneuver, it needs a lot of time. They looked inside the iron boat and started directly the rescue because they saw we have no time to wait for the shelter of the commercial vessel. And then they did a very crazy but successful rescue of the people. And they were only able to do this because we called them. So for me, it was a real sign that it's also important to be there without dinghy, without the possibility to rescue by ourselves, because we are the ice, and we are the ice, and we can tell the world there's something happening. And please, Italians, and at this point I'd say please, Italians, because it was a Maltese search and rescue region, come and help. And they came and helped. This was one,
When was that? When did that happen?
This was this year. It was,
April or so?
This was also the winter deployment, so December 2023.
Oh, wow. So like a year ago.
Yeah. And not so far away, it was somewhere in the summer this year, we were in the Libyan search and rescue zone. And there we spotted a rubber boat, an overcrowded rubber boat. And we distributed life vests. And during we distributed life vests, a Frontex aircraft circled around us and sent a Mayday relay. So a Mayday relay is an alert if someone see another boat in distress. So the aircraft saw the rubber boat and us close to it, and they sent a Mayday relay. So we knew, okay, all authorities in this region, including the Libyans, know now there's a boat in distress. And we transferred life vests, and then we accompanied the boat sailing north because it was able to move. And at one point we saw at the horizon a very fast boat coming from south. And in this moment, the people started to get in panic, and the rubber boat sailed in our direction and we sailed in their direction. And then we took over in a long side maneuver, so close to both boats close to each other. Normally, I don't want to make this maneuver, but in this situation, we did it. We rescued all the 64 people on the boat. Were these 64? Mm-hmm. Okay, these were the 64. Yeah, and then the Libyan boat arrived during our rescue. They spotted a little bit, and then we were happy they sailed again back south, and we could sail with these people on board to Italy, to Lampedusa.
That's pretty scary story, but it's good that the Libyans just went away, because they've shot at MSF and CI, I think, and some other of the rescue ships, right?
Yeah, I had this experience also one time, but not on the Trotamar III before. But the last years, I hope it will be also the next years, they only shot or shoot into the water. So they never
aimed at people.
Also not the people on the move, not crew members, and I think this would be an escalating step they don't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
what they sometimes do is that they circle around a migrant boat with such a high speed that the waves brings the boat to capsize.
Yeah.
That's almost like shooting, I think. And sometimes it seems that they also take people away and separate the group. But that's still an ongoing process, so I don't have too much information about that.
So for us, if we rescue if we find people on boats in the Tunisian or Libyan search and rescue region, then it's not a big step to take the people on board, because for us it's then not a rescue, then it's the prevention of a pullback. This is also a political view on the things we do. At one point you could say, okay, the Libyans also rescue if there's a boat in distress, but they combine the rescue with the pullback. And for me, it's not a real rescue, it's a pullback. And so we take them on board, and if a law said it's illegal, then it's not legal. So it doesn't matter. I take them, and then we see what happens.
I think it's a moral act, right? It's the right thing to do, because Libya is not a safe place, and I think legally, like most jurisdictions, see Libya as an unsafe place. So the rescue, it's not a rescue, right? It is, like you said, a pullback.
So it's also the reason we never communicate proactive with Libyans or Tunisians. So if we send mails then we never include these authorities, because for us they are not authorities in this view.
And I just want to say for the listeners, I think anyone listening to this podcast, most people will know that what Frontex is. But if this is the first time people are listening to this podcast, I'll just say that Frontex is a European Border and Coast Guard agency. And I think they get the most money, one of the most well-funded agencies in Europe. And I have many episodes where activists have talked about them and how they have helped people get pushed back to Libya or Turkey or Belarus and all kinds of places. So yeah, that was really good. I think we've been talking for about an hour, so I'm okay with time. But let's just. Is there any other missions that you wanted to talk about? I really like hearing about these things, and I want to get them out because I want people to know what's happening in the sea. But if not, we can move on to something else.
I can add one special point, because we also say abolish Frontex, because it's a structure and an organization we don't need. It's a new army, which is created in Europe. But inside this structure, sometimes there are also humans. And we had one deployment before the situation that we were not able to find a boat without the help of the Frontex aircraft. So they sent a Mayday relay. We sailed in this direction. It was then dark, and then the aircraft called us directly and said, you have to change course, bearing other direction, 2,000 yards. And then our first surprise was, how much meters are 1 yard? So then but we were able to manage it, and then we found the boat in the dark, and without this information, we wouldn't have found it. So it was very strange.
It's a systemic sort of criticism, and on scene there can be good people trying to be helpful. I think they are in the wrong agencies then, but
And if they have the command not to communicate, for sure they would not have communicate, no? But in this situation, they had the permission. I don't know why, but and then they were helpful. But we know, like policemen, they are very friendly, and if they get the command to be unfriendly, then they switch the fuse in the other direction, and then they are unfriendly. So structural-wise, it's a shitty organization.
Absolutely, yeah. Agree. I totally agree. And so thanks for telling us about those cases. It's really interesting. And I think before we move on to the last few questions, just because you look for activists to come on your ship, right? Like, can you what kind of, how do people apply to come on, or is it open to, how do you get activists to come on your ships, to come on the Trotamar III?
Yeah, I think they come mainly through hearing about us and our work, because since we are a grassroots NGO and we are small and we have this activist focus, we are a little bit different to the bigger and more established NGOs. And also some are attracted by the sailing boat and not a big steel boat or so. But they come through friends or crew members, because now we had already 12 deployments, more than 12, I think. And also through our homepage on the website, there's a crewing form, and then they can apply. And then all these applications land on my desk, and I try to find out what are the sailing abilities, what are other abilities or professions or skills the people could bring into this project. And then I try to put together a quite diverse crew, so that it's not always the same soup, sort of. So we also take people over the age of 60. Many other NGOs at the age of 60, they say too old. I myself, I'm 61, and I don't like discrimination because of age. People can be very fit and good in their head until old age. And we try to have a diverse crew by gender, by skills. And what happened to us was we wanted to be a German boat with a German crew, but already in the first crew, I think we had at least 3 nationalities: one person from Dubai, one from Italy, one from I don't remember. So
Yes.
also we have different nationalities. And then they apply, and I try to put together the crews, and then hopefully, because I'm also doing preparation here in Jakarta with them, hopefully I had a good hand, and I picked people that sort of added their skills and what they bring with them to a good crew.
Yeah. And one drop in the soup is every time the same. It's the head of deployment and skipper. It's another way than in other NGOs. So until now, I did all the deployments. And for next year, we have a second skipper and head of deployment, so we can share our work.
Responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. And this is also very important for us, because all decisions are done on the boat and not in the back office. And the other NGOs, which have several captains, skippers, several head of deployments missions, they have to have a little bit stronger back office, because they also want to implement their philosophy. And if the people which are responsible change every time, then there has to be other people to have the responsible for the philosophy. And we are able to create our philosophy on the boat, because the skipper or the head of deployment will be every time the same person, or second, and it's possible 1 year later 3. Then we only need to do 3 deployments per person. Would be very nice.
Yeah, that's great. And another thing I wanted to ask is have you had much? I can't think of the word. Have the authorities tried to stop you from sailing or anything? Have you had like any pushback from the Italian government or German or your flag state government?
I think we are lucky because we are a sailing boat, so we always get assigned the port of safety in Lampedusa. We would take this port also if we are not assigned to that port, because we can't go with 64 people on board on 13 meters. or altogether 70 people, we can't go on for hours and hours to any other port. But until now, we just have the normal procedure. If we have taken people on board, we have to go for an interview. We have to hand in many papers, but no other repression at the moment. Mm-hmm. We don't know what will happen because of this girl. So the state attorney has I don't know I don't know the word for that, has filed a case against unknown because of the lost 44 people, and we have to see what happens about the girl or young woman we found. But we were quite lucky in comparison to the bigger NGOs.
Yeah, that's good. I'm glad you can go out and not without any repression. Hopefully it stays that way. Hopefully. And then, so the last question I like to ask everyone on the podcast is, how do they feel about the future? And most people feel kind of bleak, kind of, not great about the future and where we're heading in terms of, people on the move. So if you can give me an optimistic answer, I'll be really happy. But so how do you both feel about the way things are going for people on the move?
Sure. An optimistic answer. So,
you don't have to give an optimistic answer.
I'm in an age, I only have to defend my whole life. To defend? Verteidigen?
You want to defend your whole life?
No, I have to defend rights the whole life.
Yes.
So the whole life, I have to defend something. And here also, we are only using a small part. It's only a drop in the fight against borders, and it's only a small work also defending human lives and civilizations, whatever this means. But we are doing it, and we will every time find ways to do it. And we will fight until we die. But I will die in a normal way. So when I'm very old, then I will die. And until this, I know I will every time have an idea to fight. And the time will change. And then the generations after me will create new ideas and will create new nice things. And okay, I'm in the time to fight and to defend, and it's my role, and I'm happy about it, and yeah, so it will be nice, and the boat is nice.
How about you, Katja? How do you feel about the way we're going?
I am always very optimistic, so I believe very much in the change that people can install, can bring if they work together for good goals. So nobody thought about that the wall between West Germany and East Germany might break down at that time. Nobody was thinking that we in Germany could get out Monsanto with the genetic manipulated corn. We were thinking, or picking out the corn Sunday mornings from the fields is just a symbolic way. But since I know a lot about nonviolence and the impact of nonviolent actions, I'm very optimistic. And the same with nuclear energy. We had the struggle in Gorleben for 40 years and on so many different levels. And we never thought that we could stop the final deposit site there, that the waste doesn't come there. But it's not a question of should not be in my backyard. But if we don't have this deposit site, the nuclear power plants can't run. They don't have a permission to run. So through our resistance in Gorleben and Fukushima and Chernobyl, but we stopped the use of nuclear power in Germany. So everything is possible. And I don't know how it will develop how it will become possible. But I'm very sure that we find a solution. Perhaps we are forced into a solution if people from other countries, they just revolt and they come in even larger amounts and they take the rights of freedom of movement. It might be that we just have to say in Germany and in Europe, oh, okay, it's like that. We are a country that is open and we are an immigration area or whatsoever. Somehow I think the situation will change, and I have a long breath with what I'm doing. And even if I don't do the very active work, I can always support other people and teach, sort of, share experience and skills. And yeah, so I'm optimistic that the drowning in the Mediterranean will become less and less, because all the governments see that they are responsible for the drowning, that they force people into that situation. So we really need these safe passages, freedom of movement, and a good world for everybody, not only for Europeans or Americans.
And an end to borders, hopefully.
Yes, smash down the borders. Yeah.
Well, Katja and Matthias, I think I said it different every time. Matthias, thank you very, very much for the podcast. That was a really great interview. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, for sure.
And questioning.
Yeah.
All right, that was episode 66 of the Civil Fleet podcast. Thank you very, very much for listening. Thanks again to Katja, Matthias, and everyone who is volunteered or worked with Compass Collective. They're a fantastic group, and I hope they get lots of support and lots of volunteers, and they continue their really important missions. At the end of the podcast, I'd like to remind you to check out the Civil Fleet blog, check out our news stories, our investigative stuff, and our interviews. Go to civilfleet.com for that. And if you like what we're doing and you want to help us, you can share us around, give us a like, give us a rating on podcast apps and all that stuff. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all social media, we're everywhere. And you can make a small donation at co-fi.com/civilfleet. The costs to run the Civil Fleet are super, super small, but any help that we get, any financial help or any share, anything really motivates us and keeps us going. So that's to make a micro donation. You can go to co-fi.com/civilfleet and you can donate like £3 or something, or whatever you like. It's up to you. Right, that's enough of that. I've got another episode in the works, which should hopefully, if I have the time, be released before the new year. Great. All right. That'll do. Cheers. Merry Christmas, Merry holidays and all that stuff. And Happy New Year, and I'll see you soon.